What's going on, everybody? This is Boxingwave. I wanted to make one more video about this Keyshawn Davis situation from this weekend. Now, if you've been living underneath a rock, the fight between Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos was canceled because Keyshawn was way too overweight for the fight, right? He was almost nearly 5 pounds above the weight limit. He was actually right below the weight limit of the next division up. So he was supposed to defend his title, right? So they canceled the fight. They couldn't come up to some kind of agreement to make it work. Cool. Made a response video about that. Check that out, by the way, because it's still valid, in my opinion. But look, if you guys were here on the live the other night, on the live commentary I did, they basically moved up Abdullah Mason was the main event, right? He won his fight. The Davis brothers, the other Davis brothers, Keon and Kelvin fought that night. But Kelvin Davis was the co-main event, right? He fought Nair Albright. And this was, in my eyes, the most competitive fight on the card outside the original main event, which was Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos. This fight here was a fight that I thought was an even fight going into the fight, right? Because Albright had already beaten, or I'm sorry, he already fought Keyshawn Davis, right? Lost, but it's one of Keyshawn's most competitive fights, right? Cool. So if you were here on the live, and this is right towards the very end of the live, the fight was already over. The main event is over. Kelvin Davis already lost to Albright, right? Everything is over. ESPN broadcast some of the fight between the Davis family and Albright and his team. It had spilled out into backstage in the hallway area. There was police there. The Davis family, I saw Keon there. I saw Keyshawn there. I saw Keyshawn and his family. I think his kid was there. And I guess there was somebody from Albright's team. So it had spilled out into the hallway, I guess. Now, they broadcasted this on ESPN. You had the commentators up there, Tim Bradley and these guys, and then they changed cameras and they focused on this fight that was going on behind the scenes. The first thing I want to say about all of this before I continue, do not let this situation distract you from the fact that Keyshawn Davis decided to come 4.3 pounds overweight for his first championship defense, which ruined the whole event. He ruined the entire event. The seats were not filled, okay? Because people refunded their tickets because they weren't seeing the guy that they wanted to support. I understand that the Davis brothers were fighting on that undercard, but don't let this distract you from the fact that this event was ruined and they had to pay Edwin De Los Santos his full purse for a fight that he did not have, that he prepared for. So even though we're talking about all these guys jumped this guy backstage and stuff, and no one got jumped. Shout out to YSM Media Sports, right? YouTube channel. Does a lot of exclusive interviews. I see Mill City Boxing on YouTube. He does a lot of interviews with different coaches. Both of them do. All right. They do a lot of interviews with coaches and trainers, right away. From the people that was in that room, right? Because let's make one thing clear. Keon and Keyshawn, the one that did not fight, that ruined the event, went into Albright's locker room after his fight with Kelvin and initiated the fight. Right? Now, there was no fight. From the people that's Team Albright, they said that these guys came in the room. They went up to Albright, grabbed him, head-butted him, probably pushed their head into his head. right? Everybody had to separate it, and then it pretty much probably spilled out into the hallway or whatever. No one got jumped. But for Keyshawn and Keon to go into their dressing room after the fight was already over, not to congratulate them, to already make a messed up event even worse. This is not the same as tension between camps prior to a fight. We see it all the time. You know what I mean? Guys pushing each other's at weigh-ins and press conferences, slapping each other, punching each other. We seen Riddick Bowe. We seen Mike Tyson. We seen what Zab has done. We seen what Mayorga has done. There's a million fighters we can name where they had something that went down prior to a fight, building up, leading up to a fight. This fight between Albright and Kelvin was already over. In my eyes, Albright won the fight clear. So just because, Keyshawn, you're pissed off because you messed up the event, right? Because people paid to see you. You got Mike Vick, you got all these guys, AI, you got Allen Iverson, you got all these guys supporting you. You from Norfolk, you know, I seen Pusha T at your last fight over there. You know, you getting support from your people, from your hometown, and you decided to come a whole division heavier than your opponent who trained and prepared himself to make weight and fight you that night, even though he had a 19-month layoff and you had 5 fights in between. You decided, even though you're already bigger than him, you wanted to come in and be even more bigger than him. Pause. This scuffle between Albright and Keyshawn Davis, nah. Is it bad? Absolutely. Is it unprofessional? Absolutely. Who cares if it's unprofessional? I understand that there are boxer fans out there, right, that's going to jump on this situation and try to slander Keyshawn because of their biases. I understand that there are people out there that don't like Keyshawn Davis and they were waiting for an opportunity like right now to jump on him. I don't care about that. The main thing that happened here is that Keyshawn Davis ruined this event, and this was his biggest moment in his career. The guy won a title and pretty much threw his own belt in the garbage because he didn't feel like making weight, and he felt like having an advantage over his opponent. And I don't want to hear, oh, he just couldn't make weight. Are you a fighter? No, real fighters, championship level fighters, saying the same thing. So let's not deflect and use this little scuffle between the camps. This scuffle between the camps ain't nothing. The worst part about this scuffle is that the fight was already over, right? There was no controversy in the ring. There was no controversy. It was a fair win for Albright. He won clearly to me. Clearly. I think one of them scored at a draw, which was an attempt robbery because Kelvin did nothing to win that fight. He lost in the beginning. He lost in the end. Kelvin just got outboxed. He got hurt like 5 times in the fight. The fight was over. The Davis brothers had no business going into that man's locker room unless they were congratulating him for winning, which a lot of fighters do after the fight is over. Everybody does it. All those fighters over there in the UK, they do interviews together after they lose. They go, I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm not saying, listen, this is the fight game. I don't expect boxers to act like the way tennis players act or golfers act. If you want to be salty, if you don't like each other, that's cool. I'm not act I'm not asking for these fighters to be ultra classy. Again, some of the fighters that we love, that we grew up watching, have no class, okay? But at the end of the day, the fight was over. Why are you going into their dressing room? Oh, because you're frustrated because everybody's getting on you for messing up the fight. That's why. You didn't fight. Your brother lost. So now you want to go into the locker room and fight outside of the ring. You should have had that energy for De Los Santos, the opponent you wanted to fight. And yes, was ESPN messed up for showing that and broadcasted it? You know, at first on the live, I was kind of shocked that they were broadcasting it. But when I thought about it after I turned the camera off, I'm like, of course, why not? Why not show it? There's no one in the arena. People didn't show up for the fight because this guy messed the fight up. So we're losing money. We lost money. We put an event together. We had to pay his opponent out of pocket to not fight. And you guys are going to be in the backstage acting like clowns and try to fight the guy after he won? Show it to the world. Yes, let's show it. He embarrassed us. Let's embarrass him. He lost us money. This is how we make up for it. So yes, we're going to broadcast you being a clown. And he already didn't take accountability for messing up the event by coming in overweight because he said he did not want to apologize. I understand they made a public apology. The Davis brothers were sorry. We didn't jump nobody, but we're sorry for our behavior, yada, yada, yada. They put a public thing on social media. Nah. I mean, it's good that you're apologizing, but speak on it. This is what I said the other day. Don't just miss weight and act like, oh, I tried to make it, but I couldn't make it. You just made it a few months ago. You didn't even try to make it. You just said, I'm going to have an advantage over this guy. Let's be real. Like, let's be real, man. Let's be real. That's not missing weight. That's having an advantage over your opponent. Because you weren't confident enough. You picked this guy. Like you said, you picked Edwin De Los Santos to fight you. He wasn't your mandatory. He's a fighter that people consider dangerous. And you wanted to have one up on Shakur Stevenson, who didn't look great against him that night. So you wanted to try and beat him better. Cool. But you weren't confident enough to at least make it fair by fighting him at least near his weight. You were a whole division limit up from lightweight. I just, when I see everybody's reactions and they're bringing up all of these fights of all these other instances when there was, fights outside of the ring, I'm like, what is everybody talking about this for? What are we talking about this for? I mean, it's messed up that it happened, but the real problem is Keyshawn wouldn't have been back there if he had fought Edwin De Los Santos. He would have been more focused off his win or his loss. He would have been celebrating his win or fuming because he lost. I don't know. Maybe Keyshawn would have walked, if he had lost the fight, maybe he would have walked in Edwin De Los Santos' locker room and started a fight. All I know is that these guys wanted to smoke outside of the ring. After they ruined their own event. He ruined their event, not they. He ruined. Kelvin loses. It's not a big deal. People take losses all the time. Come back stronger. It's not a big deal that Kelvin lost a fight. He fought a good fighter. It's not a big deal. Keyshawn, get it together, bro. Because you lost a lot of fans. You lost a lot of fans. Depending on how you moving forward, like people calling him Adrian Broner and all that. Listen, people can bounce back. So he didn't lose me as a fan. He lost my respect for now, but you can grow from this. You know what I mean? That's just my message to him. Like, he can grow from this. He can bounce back from this. I know it looks bad, but he could bounce back depending on how he acts moving forward. But if he fails and refuses to take accountability for the way that he acted that night and for ruining this event, then he may at some point lose me as a fan. But I'm just one person. You know what I mean? Who cares? But the boxing world lost, he lost a lot of fans, especially in his hometown. Now everybody has to be a Della Mason, who is all class. Not saying you got to be like him. Now everybody has their father and their brothers looking out over him, making sure he stays on point, stays sharp, stays disciplined. Not everybody has that, okay? Not everybody's like him, all right? But have enough class and professionalism to at least make weight, bro. Or at least try to, all right? I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.